Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jessica Hernandez, and I am presenting on behalf of our project team and James Coburn, our project lead. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning. We have developed a process and tool to implement proactive communication within the agency that will inform decision-making based on emerging technologies like 3D printing. To begin with, let me introduce Kaiba. He has benefited from 3D printing, a truly game-changing technology. He was born with a critically life-threatening condition that caused his airway to collapse every time he breathed. It's a rare condition, so no effective treatment was available. Early in 2012, doctors made a 3D replica of Kaiba's airways and created a 3D printed splint. They implanted it into the 3-month-old with emergency authorization from the FDA and saved his life. Today, he is thriving like any other toddler. The medical device industry moves incredibly fast, and regulatory innovative life-saving technologies like the one that saved Kaiba require knowledgeable people within the FDA, a lot of background research, and management visibility on the situation and its implications. But regulatory processes can move slowly, and that means the agency needs to be on the leading edge of the curve and not trailing behind. FDA researchers recognized 3D printing as a game changer early in 2012. They formed a community of practice, but it grew slowly, and it took time to elevate the issue and present it to the relevant decision makers. This experience led the team to HHS Ignite. Through many stakeholder interviews, we discovered that there isn't a solution for this pervasive problem. Finding ongoing projects and relevant experts is sometimes nearly impossible. What's more, leaders can only make decisions when they have clear and actionable information. So the driving question behind this effort really was, how do we make more success stories? Through our user research, it became clear that there was a lot of value in developing a mechanism and set of best practices to effectively bring people together. That is why we developed CoPilot, a framework and tool to enable proactive communication. The CoPilot process works by crowdsourcing people's interest in an idea. It then organizes the resulting group using an existing micro-volunteering software solution developed at GSA called Open Opportunities. Think of it as a Kickstarter and Meetup mashup, but for government. Now, let's retell Kaiba's story using CoPilot as a guide. FDA scientists still discover the potential of 3D printing in 2012. CoPilot provides a framework to take that nebulous idea and make it concrete. Next, I'll show some screenshots of how the Open Opportunities tool would have helped them. They launched their idea like a Kickstarter. Here, anyone can donate time to seed a project. CoPilot's framework provides everyone with a clear background picture of the goals and impact of this issue. It will even be integrated with automatic expert locating software to auto-suggest staff with relevant expertise. If you reach your minimum threshold, your group starts. From there, group leaders can publish additional tasks and group-related events. They will also be able to see how many people can work on each task or attend events, adapting the group's goals to match its capabilities. These features allow the system to track groups that are gaining members and completing outputs, as well as align with strategic goals. Senior leadership can monitor this through a dashboard that includes analytics and alerts to flag topics for prioritization. Ultimately, this streamlined process will enable the agency to be more proactive, addressing emerging issues earlier in their life cycle and greatly benefiting the public health, including patients like Kaiba. In the near future, we will be sending our requirements and our mock-ups to GSA to incorporate into their development plan. We will also complete an implementation-ready project plan as well as best practices playbook. We believe there is value in creating a private HHS instance of Open Opportunities and would like to explore expanded development, including integration with automatic expert finding tools. GSA is interested in a collaboration, and additional support is needed to advance our work. In closing, I would like to thank the HHS Ignite leadership and the teams for all of your support and mentorship and ideas. This has really been a tremendous experience for us. Thanks.
I'm going to have Ned ask my industry questions. I love it.
I don't think this is in the private sector.
It's actually, I mean, so this is to me a really interesting idea because if you think about one of the biggest challenges that organizations like FDA are going to face in the coming years, it's going to be staying on the forefront of a lot of the technology development that's happening at such a rapid pace.
Absolutely.
With no commensurate increase in organizational capacity. And so we have to do things in a different way if we want to stay on top of some of this stuff. 3D printing to me is a phenomenal example, right? The case study that you presented is just one example of some folks in the field who were able to work quickly and understood the FDA's sort of emergency processes well enough that they were able to get something through. But how many other children like that or other people like that are not as fortunate to be sort of in that capacity, right?
Right.
So by enabling our sort of regulatory processes to keep up with some of these things, that to me is a huge value add here. Have you, I assume you've talked to a bunch of the FDA leadership about this and talked to them about the possibilities. I mean, it strikes me that part of it's cultural, right? Let's assume you build this tool and you get a lot of these things in place. You still have to get the organization itself to say, yeah, this is something important that we're going to dedicate resources to. Do you think that there's a willingness to do that, or is that something that will come once the data is presented, or is it still a challenge?
I think so, and again and again, and we conducted dozens of interviews, and then we did additional testing of our mock-ups, and I think that there's a lot of enthusiasm for this process and this tool. I think it will require somewhat of a culture shift, and user adoption and how we best incentivize users, I think, is going to be something that we need to take a really close look at moving forward. But ultimately, this is something that people are doing. They just need a mechanism to facilitate it, and they need a set of best practices to really guide that.
You just said what I think is the magic word, incentives.
Yes.
And I get lectured. My background's virtually entirely in the private sector. Thank you very much. And I get lectures from time to time about, well, we're not financially driven. Well, most people work to feed their families. Maybe that's not financially driven. So what kind of incentives do you think we can build into this when we really can't pay people differently because there are rules?
Sure. So, I think to begin with, this is our job. We're already doing it. We just need a mechanism to really facilitate it. But I think at the same time, some of the sort of the built-in features of this tool, the Open Opportunities tool, are really worth looking at for us, especially I think as we move forward with this pilot. There are built-in badging features as well as endorsement features. I think that would be worth testing. Another aspect that we're looking at is supervisory sign-off. So there's this sort of buy-in on the front end and this sort of understanding that this is something that we're committed to advancing together.
I do think that this is an issue that is a real issue. I'm having a little trouble just understanding how you're going to get from here to there. But I think your engagement with executive leadership is really something to work on getting more involvement and more clarification, because this is something that if you solve for and it works is really good.
Absolutely. And I think that ultimately for them there will be a lot of benefit because they'll have a lot more transparency and science-based evidence to assist their decision making on these really critical topics.
I'll just add, it was very compelling how you started with the story of Kaiba, and you had a very tangible story with a successful outcome, and don't lose sight of that, because if you've got a usage case of 3D printing being used in actual patients, that's your quickest path to for success, and makes it easier to get the follow-on. So I would just give that word of encouragement.
Thank you. Thanks for your feedback and your questions.
Anything else, guys? No? All right. On that note, thank you very, very much. It was a great presentation.